Hey everybody, this is Scott with another round of my weekly polls. Again, doing this, trying to keep this as a weekly thing. Just kind of share the books that I get and just talk about them for a little bit. So here we are, the week before Free Comic Book Day, and these are the last books I'm grabbing for Free Comic Book Day. And at the end of this, I'll share just a couple. It's like two of the books that I've collected over the years from Free Comic Book Day. So starting with this week's polls. We've got the Danger Doll Squad, Amalgama Lives, first issue, and this is from Action Lab, and this is a series that the first one brought together the characters Zombie Trap, Dollface, and Vamp Blade. Dollface is one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite one out of the three. It's just unfortunate for one reason or another, her book hasn't been coming out. Hasn't been out for months. I kind of miss it, but getting ready to start moving on it. So. But this one here, it's the character that you see on the cover, Amalgama. She's an amalgamation of the different parts or aspects of those three female characters, and she has mad hatred for them. They destroyed her kingdom. They destroyed her original body, and they basically took everything from her, although she was the one who kidnapped them and forced them to fight. And I mean, she's not a very nice person, but she's one of those villains that says, I get to do what I want, but if you do things to me, then I get to have revenge because I'm a jerk. But great series. If you're looking for something that has strong female characters, this is the stuff you need to look for. Zombie Trap, Dollface, and Vamp Blade. Danger Doll Squad, a lot of fun. And yeah, I got the Risque cover, so I had to cover it because I know some people are overly sensitive about that sort of stuff. Moving on. Deceased #1 from, of course, DC Comics. This was, when they were advertising it, it just felt like it was going to be DC's version of Marvel Zombies. On the surface, it still kind of is that, especially the way it starts, but it's getting to be something more. My only question about this thing, other than the fact that, this is a really good book. I'm not really a DC reader. I've never really been able to get into DC that long outside of the character Lobo. But this is actually pretty intense. The covers are great. There's multiple covers. They're all really good. This is the one that I picked up. But the story's pretty intense. And you kind of get the impression that there's no way anybody's going to survive this. So it's going to be really interesting to see where it goes. My only question on this thing is this an in-continuity story? Or is this just sort of, let's just have some fun, alternate reality type thing? Either way, it's good. I think if it's in continuity, the ramifications will be pretty awesome. But I'm not sure how they would, in the long run, I'm not sure, kind of entertainment value it's going to have. If it's an alternate reality story, great, just do it, and then maybe later we can come back and visit this reality to see how good or bad things are getting. But I was only planning on picking up the first issue of this, and then maybe the second issue if I could get the Nightmare on Elm Street variant. But I think I might actually stick with this. Plus, it doesn't seem like it's like your typical Marvel event where it starts off big, you got your main book, and then your crossover issues, and then as the series goes on, just like Marvel tends to do, they keep adding more and more to it, making the whole thing grow and making it way more expensive than it needs to be. But I'm definitely going to be sticking with this. I think this is going to be a really, really fun series. Moving on. It was a quarter. I figured, what the heck? I check it out. DC's Youre the Villain one-shot. Again, only 25 cents. And this is sort of, you could describe it as sort of like a jam one-shot. It begins or continues various threads that have been going through the DC universe. As you can see, it's got Legion of Doom and the Batman Who Laughs and other characters. It's just kind of setting up this other event that DC has going on, I guess, where the villains actually win for a change. And this is another one of those things. I may not actually stick with the main thrust of the story, but I might check out some of these. So some very interesting stuff going on in here. DC's really, really stepping it up. They don't do too good with the movies, so why not focus on what you can do, and that's on what you do, and that's comic books. That's what they do. So, You're the Villain, Deceased, two really good books that they had come out this week. So again, this one's only 25 cents, so it's definitely worth checking out. Even if you have no idea what's going on, this gives you just enough to know what you need to know. So, good stuff. Doctor Strange. I'm only grabbing this because it's Doctor Strange and Galactus story. Anytime these two are together, it's really kind of interesting the way that they the dynamics of the two characters, the way they work together. Plus, this cover, I just love this cover. It's a really dynamic cover with Doctor Strange putting on the helmet of Galactus, which does not happen in the story, but makes for a really good cover. I'm just going to be checking out this story. I'm not going to be picking up as a regular thing. I'm not a huge fan of Mark Waid, not so much because of his writing, but because of his attitude towards fans and towards certain people in the fan base. Not really going to get into that right now. Excuse me, but this story, it's a lot of fun. You got Galactus was taken from our universe and put into a magic realm, so you kind of get an idea of what would happen if Galactus started to devour things that are magical and not science-based. And it really messes with them. So we've got Doctor Strange trying to prevent that from happening and get Galactus back into our universe, because if he starts eating more and more of this magical realm, it's going to just take apart everything, and everything will be destroyed. So, really good read. Great cover so far. The last issue had a really interesting cover. This one is probably one of my favorite Doctor Strange covers in a long time. I just like these kind of covers. So moving on, we have the 5th issue of Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Now it's no secret that I am a huge fan of Elvira. I mean, I just absolutely adore this lady. She's great in every aspect. Some aspects she's a little bit greater than others, but overall, the character is great. The lady who plays her, Cassandra Peterson, is an amazing woman as well. But this story here, she's been going from different time zones, or not time zones, but eras in time, and fiction, nonfiction, and now she's ended up in hell, and she realizes that, hey, I'm not dead and I don't belong here, so I need to get out of here. And she's basically told that you have to talk to Satan in order to get out. And she figures, well, I'm not the sort of person who likes to complain to management, but this time I'll make the exception. So she takes it upon herself to go talk to the devil about getting out of hell. And just like one of the characters in the book says, if anybody could convince the devil to return her to the land of the living, it's Elvira. And I've got my money on her. This has been a really fun series so far, especially the moments where she sort of does break the fourth wall and does reference that she's in a Dynamite series. And just a lot of fun. If you're a fan of Elvira, I would definitely recommend checking this series out. She's also got another one called The Shape of Elvira, which I talked about last week. Great books. They don't really connect to each other. They're totally independent, but really good stuff. Really fun reads. All right, now this one here is one that I was looking forward to for a while. American Mythology Productions has been doing this series of books inspired by the Three Stooges. And they were doing Three Stooges kind of set in modern times, and they decided to sort of change gears and keep the Three Stooges in their own time, as well as kind of make it more black and white, more like the shorts, more like the way it were originally. And it's worked really well. I mean, I love the Three Stooges one-shots that they've been doing. So I look forward to I think they've got one coming out next week. I'm looking forward to it. But this is Laurel and Hardy, coming out at a really good time. The movie Stan and Ollie has been released. And if you're a fan of Laurel and Hardy, I do recommend checking that movie out. It's a lot of fun. It's also, touching, heartwarming. It's everything you need. But this right here, it's like watching one of the Laurel and Hardy shorts. I mean, I am not ashamed to admit that while I was reading this, I laughed out loud more than a couple of times. So it was really well done. The creative team on this really captured the spirit and the tone of these characters and the world that they exist in. So if you're looking for something that's fun, just fun and light, and just to have a good time with a comic book, this is definitely one to check out. American Mythology Productions, Laurel and Hardy. And again, they've got Three Stooges coming out next week. I do recommend. Cannot recommend high enough. And this was an interesting one. This is a Marvel Action Spider-Man number 3. This is a Marvel comic book featuring Marvel comic book characters, but it's published through IDW. But it's a lot of fun. And it kind of came out at a good time when this one was coming out, when it was first starting, and this issue is actually a couple of months overdue. I was basically done with Marvel. I had no interest in the way that that their talent had been treating the fans and the industry in general, and I dropped all my Marvel books. Kind of getting back into them now slowly. And this book really scratched the itch that I had for a Spider-Man series. It's not connected to anything. It's completely in its own continuity. For example, you've got, as you see on the cover, you've got Miles, Gwen, and Peter in this series, in this world, that they're all in high school at the same time. Whereas in modern era, Peter and Miles, their age differences are pretty great. But in this one, they all exist together. They're still kind of learning. They're still kind of learning who they are, what's going on in their world. So if you're looking for a good, fun Spider-Man book that's not connected, not connected to continuity or not connected to anything else, the Marvel Action Spider-Man series I do recommend. You've also got a Black Panther and an Avengers book. Same thing, not connected, and probably a lot of fun. I didn't read those. I'm a Spider-Man fan, so I checked this one out. Moving on. Superior Spider-Man, number 5. It's just, unfortunately, this book is going to be more of the same. It's not really moving forward. To me, it's not really moving forward. There's really not a whole lot that I can say about it. So I don't even really care for the cover, but I'm going to give it one more issue and see where it goes. So we're just going to move on from here. And last up this week, I guess these are still True Believers. I guess they're across the top. It no longer says True Believers. It says Marvel's Greatest Creators, and it's the same thing as True Believers. There are $1 reprints. Great books. I mean, I did read them. They're a lot of fun. This one's Avengers, focusing on the creators Steve Englehart and Bob Brown. This is also the origin of Mantis, who was recently featured in the Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers Endgame movie. Great read. I mean, I'm also glad that they finally kept the covers intact. There's no issue numbers or anything like that, but the logos are there. Everything is there as it was originally. So it was pretty fun. But this one here, Incredible Hulk, Peter David, Gary Frank. This is the wedding issue, the wedding of Rick Jones. And I've never read this. I've seen the issue, seen the cover. It's a pretty iconic cover now. But with this one, I finally did sit down and read the issue, and it actually was a lot of fun. I'm actually really enjoying that with these True Believers, Greatest Creators, $1 reprints that I can, I really don't have a reason not to sit down and read these books anymore, and it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed doing that. So I'm glad that Marvel is continuing and now apparently expanding on the concept. So those were the books that I picked up this week. So we're going to take a quick look at a couple of free comic book day books that I picked up, and those videos going kind of long, so I want to wrap it up. From the very first free comic book day, many moons ago, there was Ultimate Spider-Man #1 was reprinted, and yeah, it was reprinted. They also did Ultimate X-Men #1. I believe that was the same year. I have them both, but this is the one I decided to focus on. So, give you an idea, you get free comic books this Saturday. There's all the comic book shops across the country are going to have a selection of books that you can have for free. Not everything in the store is going to be for free, so just a certain selection. So you want to make sure you're getting the free books. Stores will also have a lot of great deals and sales on their back stock, on their trade paperbacks, possibly on their figures. Who knows what they're going to have? It's a good idea to just go in and find out. Even go in today or tomorrow, go into your local comic book shop and look at and ask your proprietors, what are you going to do on Free Comic Book Day? What kind of sales are you going to have? Check their Facebook pages if they've got Facebook pages, and see what's going on so you know what to prepare for. Because usually these are pretty big events for stores. Your comic shops are usually pretty packed on these days. So you get mainstream stuff like from your Marvel and DC and IDW. So this is something that, like this. You also get fun stuff. Like one of my favorite books that I get every Free Comic Book Day is The Tick. And these are always so much fun. But again, it's a great selection of books. This year there's